All right, today we're going to demystify the national budget for 2026. And look, you should think of this less as some dense, boring financial document and more like a roadmap for where the country is headed. We're going to break down its core ideas, its key investments, and what it all really means for the future.
So right at the heart of this entire budget, you'll find these three guiding principles called kartavyas. Now, the word translates to duties, but it's more than that. It's about a deep sense of moral and civic responsibility. These aren't just policies. They're the ethical foundation for every single decision we're about to see. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the big vision behind those three duties. Then we'll dive into the three main pillars: firing up the economic engine, empowering people, and making sure there's inclusive progress for everyone. And finally, we'll do what you always do. We'll follow the money.
Right, before we even get to the numbers and the policies, we've got to understand the why behind it all, those foundational duties that are driving this entire budget.
And here they are, the three big duties. First, to speed up and maintain economic growth. Simple enough? Second, to help people achieve their dreams by building up their skills and potential. And third, this very important principle, sabka saath, sabka vikas, which means together with all, development for all. Literally, every plan we're about to discuss is built to serve one of these three core duties. Okay, let's dive into our first pillar, which gets right to that first duty of economic growth, the economic engine. Think of this as the government's plan for building the nation's core hardware. You know, the industries, the tech, the infrastructure, all the nuts and bolts you need for the future.
You can really see the focus here is on, well, the future. We're talking about major moves in cutting-edge areas like biopharma and a huge push in semiconductors. But at the same time, there's this drive to lock down essential resources, like rare earth minerals, all while pouring massive investment into the bedrock stuff like infrastructure, textiles, and energy security.
So you probably saw semiconductors on that list and thought, why the huge push for that specifically right now? It's a great question.
Well, the answer is pretty simple and pretty powerful. Semiconductors are basically the brain cell of all electronics. And as we've all seen recently, global shortages can bring things to a screeching halt. So the big takeaway here is that being self-reliant in chips is no longer just a nice-to-have. It's a matter of national security.
And look, this isn't just lip service. They're putting serious money behind it. Just look at this number. 10,000 crore rupees. That's getting pumped into a biopharma strategy over the next 5 years. The ambition is massive, to make India a global powerhouse for biopharma manufacturing. You know, what's really striking here is just how long-term the thinking is. We see a big jump in spending coming up soon, but the plan goes way beyond that. 20 new waterways in the next 5 years, and a goal to double the use of waterways for transport by 2047. This isn't just about planning for next year, it's about building for the next generation. All right, so we've talked about the hardware. Now let's move to our second pillar, empowering people. And if the first pillar was hardware, this one is all about investing in the nation's software, the skills, the health, and the creativity of its people. You can see this pillar is cackling human potential from all sorts of angles. They're creating a stronger link between what you learn and what you earn. There's a huge expansion in healthcare, not just for us, but to actually attract medical tourism. The budget's also putting money into the creative economy. We're talking gaming, animation, you name it. And finally, giving the tourism sector a real boost by training its people. And that brings us to our third and final pillar, which really ties back to that core idea of sabka saath, sabka vikas, inclusive progress. This whole section is about one thing, making sure that nobody gets left behind. Wow, the initiatives here are incredibly diverse, and they really show a commitment to reaching, every corner of society. There's direct help for farmers to earn more, a major new investment in mental health, and a real strategic focus on developing the East. It also includes a special program, the Divyanjan Kaushal Yojana, which is all about providing skills and opportunities for persons with disabilities, making sure they're a core part of the country's growth. Okay, so we've seen the vision, we've seen the strategy. Now for the part everyone's waiting for, let's get to the bottom line and follow the money. It's the most basic question for any budget, right? For every single rupee the government spends, where does that rupee actually come from? So this chart breaks it down for us pretty clearly. The biggest single source at 24% is borrowings and other liabilities. That's basically debt. After that, you've got taxes. Income tax from people like you and me makes up 21%.
Corporate taxes from businesses are 18%, and then GST and other taxes come in at 15%.
Okay, so that's where the money comes from. Now for the other side of the coin, where does it all go?
And here's the answer. The largest slice, 22%, is actually transferred directly to the states. Now look at the second biggest expense, a whopping 20%, is just to pay the interest on old government debt. After that, you have spending on central government programs, defense, and then everything else.
All right, to wrap up the numbers, this table gives us a quick snapshot of the big fiscal indicators. For instance, the fiscal deficit is at 4.3% of GDP. To put it simply, that's the gap between what the government earns and what it spends. Economists are going to be watching that number, and the overall debt-to-GDP ratio of 55.6% very, very closely. And hey, just as a final note, it's worth pointing out the person credited as the chief architect of this whole thing, Anuradha Thakur. It's a good reminder of the incredible human effort that goes into a massive financial plan like this. So there you have it. We've walked through the vision, the pillars, the numbers. The whole roadmap is laid out. And it leaves us with one final and maybe the most important question to think about. With this ambitious plan now on paper, what do you think will be the biggest challenge in actually turning this vision into reality?